You know what I mean? Imagine a pair of Jordans. What if a pair of Jordans fluctuated in price? And at certain times you could get them for 30 bucks and at other times you could get them for 150. Wouldn't you want them at wouldn't you want them for 30? Crypto was fool's gold. I don't know about that. You just got to be if you've been investing from the start, you're probably a millionaire by now. I mean, certainly it certainly made a lot of people a lot of money. But you also got to not be greedy and be willing to sell, you know? Like I sold all my Dogecoin whenever it got to 7 cents. Dogecoin went way more than 7 cents. I think it went up to like a quarter or something like that at one time. Um, did I lose a lot of money by selling? Yeah, but I also made like 900% on the money that I had. You got to be sometimes you got to be willing to take to take yes for an answer. You know what I mean? To take some profits. That you know. And if you held Bitcoin from $10,000 all the way up to $65,000, and then you've rode it back down to 16 right now, and you never sold none, you never took none off the top to make your life better. I'm sorry, but you're a different type of investor than I am, homie. I need mine. If I could secure some gains, homie, I'll take mine off the top. You know, and now I've taken losses as well, and I've certainly left money on the table. Uh, Yeah, exactly. Doge got up to like 70 cents. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I but I knew it wouldn't stay like that. So I sold mine. I bought it at an eighth of a penny. Whenever I bought it, it was at an eighth of a penny, and I sold it. And I sold a little bit whenever it got to a penny, and I sold some more whenever it got to like 3 cents. But I had bought a lot. I had millions and millions of them. 150 million or something like that. And I sold them. I kept selling them all the way up till I sold out at 7 cents. And I needed a car. This is what happened. It was in the middle of the winter, and I had a car, and I've been driving this car forever. It was a good car. It was a great fucking car. I had a system in it. It was a Geo Metro, a Suzuki Swift. It was a 98 one, a 3-cylinder that got like 55 miles to the gallon, dog. And I had it all tricked out. It was like a little, you know what I mean? I had a wicked ass system in it. It was dope, Doug. It was a dope little car. And the what's called one it was super cold, and I went out there, and what I didn't realize is that the like the locking mechanism in the door had like frozen shut, and it was like in the wrong position or something whenever I slammed the door, and it slammed the whole thing shut, and the door would no longer close. Like it bent a bunch of metal, and the door would no longer close. So then I had to tie the door shut, and I was like, man, I can't be doing this. I work too hard to be doing this. Like I had to, in the middle of winter, I'm driving around and I got this whole thing like tied to this side of the window. And it was like, man, I'm doing too much. I need a new car. So I sold all my Doge and I went and got a new car. What did I end up holding a bag with? I ended up holding a couple bags, dog. If we're going to be honest, they got me good, dog. Microvision got me good. I went on, I happened to, there's this company called Suro Capital, 4 S's in a row. That's the ticker. And that thing was paying out amazing dividends. And like they were paying themselves dividends because they own all their own stock. So they were paying like $1.50, $1.75 a share. And it was like a $7 stock. I got paid some dividends on that. They tax that different too. Whenever you get a good chunk of dividends, they tax that shit different because you really didn't do nothing to earn that. Yeah, when COVID popped off, I took all the money that I had and just kind of threw it at the stock market. I had zero idea what I was doing. And I called the bottom of the market within a couple days. Like I was 2 or 3 days off from the exact bottom of the market. And because that's all I knew. I was like, I just know that you're supposed to buy shit whenever it goes down. And I was just watching it for days. Every day you'd wake up and they're like, the stock market collapsed more and more and more. And I was like, well, fuck, I guess today's the day. And I called it I called it within 3 days, I believe. Boom, boom. But it was dumb luck. And I didn't know what I was doing. I was just picking stuff. Inflation hurt. You know what I mean? But at the same time, gas is going down. And there's a perception involved. There's a psychological perception. Is it going up or is it going down? And we know this because We see this with people who spend money on their homes as well. The economy doesn't have to get worse, or people doesn't have to have people don't have to be making less money to stop spending money. If the people to spending money on their house, if the housing market turns down, right? And let's say I'm making 100 grand and the housing market is going up, I'll invest in my house because I see it as a what you call. I see it as an investment. And there's a psychological trick here that happens. As soon as the what you call turns down, we see it as a liability all of a sudden because it's losing value. And we're less likely to spend money. And we can see this at Home Depot. And then as soon as the housing market turns down, people stop spending money on their homes, right? Which arguably might be one of the best times, because whenever the demand stops, the price of the things that the demand for the stuff that you improve homes goes down, so the price goes down because not as many people want it. But that's not what we think. It's the same reason we sell whenever stocks bleed out, because we can't take it. Instead of looking at it in the reverse and the proper thing, which is like, wow, this is a juicy price. You know what I mean? Imagine a pair of Jordans. What if a pair of Jordans fluctuated in price? And at certain times you could get them for $30, and at other times you could get them for 150. Wouldn't you want them for 30? I don't understand why we don't think about stocks in the same way, if that makes sense. A Geo Group is a private prison, right? This is they own and manage private prisons. Well, what's going to happen? The ramifications whenever all the crime, the uptick in crime, things of this nature. Maybe he's projecting that eventually people are going to be tired of the crime and they're going to do something about it. And then whenever they do something about it, there's going to be a backlash. And the backlash will see a bunch of people in prison again, perhaps. Or maybe he's betting on something to do, and don't call me racist, but we're talking money here. Maybe he's betting on the fact that Biden just let in a whole bunch of immigrants and that's going to cause a problem. Maybe he's thinking that that's going to cause, you know what I mean? That perhaps that's going to exacerbate some issues that are already here. Whenever you take a bunch of immigrants and bring them into immigrants that don't have much, like imagine what would happen right now if you brought a bunch of immigrant children to like inner city Chicago. There's a bunch of them that are going to be with the business. They're going to jump right in and be like, fuck yeah, let's do it. You know what I mean? No matter where they're from, South American dudes, whatever. And so maybe they're counting on that. Maybe they're counting on the effect because there's been a couple million immigrants that have entered through the southern border over the last couple years. We know that. Biden escorted a lot of them, obviously, to different places in the United States. They pointed out every once in a while, but the news cycle doesn't mean much because even though it's so disturbing that whenever they say, oh, look, they're taking these migrants in their ship. And I remember one night it was to like Kentucky or something like that. They flew a bunch of them to Kentucky. That is disturbing. But then the next day, Trump says something crazy or Biden mumbles, or you know what I mean? And so the news cycle constantly buries these things. No matter what you do. I can't even find, I go back and try to find some stuff that I used to know where it was. The internet just buries it, man. Internet buries information under false trash. Right? Half the time I have a feeling that that's why politicians come out and say some of the ridiculous things that they do. Because if Nancy Pelosi comes out and says something ridiculous, we can write a bunch of stories and we can bury the truth in stories. So whenever you Google the keywords, because we know how search engines work. So whenever you Google the keywords, Nancy Pelosi is guilty of this shit. You get 37 stories on top of it about how Nancy Pelosi isn't guilty of that shit. Right? And it's not necessarily because those stories are more accurate or have been voted up or anything like that. It's just because sequentially through time, they were written after the other story. So they just get stacked on. And the story that shows that she is actually guilty of something is pushed back on the 5th or 6th page and it never gets seen. They do this on purpose.